Hi, this is Paul from finishYourSong.com, and in this video I want to have a look at recreating an old drum machine using Groove Agent 1 in Cubase. Now, you might get nostalgic for the sound of an old drum machine, or you might have a very specific use for a drum machine you had in the past that you used on a particular song, and you want to recreate that vibe in a track you're working on. Either way, you want to recreate the sound that you had in the past. And some people have made a virtue of that. If you think about Dangerous by James Blunt, or most of the last Taylor Swift album from what I gather, that's very much rooted in the sounds of the drum machines of the 80s. So what I've done here is, before I sold my old faithful TR505, I sampled it, and I'm just going to play you a few of the sounds so you can hear what we've got. Wonderful. Real cheesy 8-bit drum samples, but they had a charm all of their own. So what I did was I set up a series of MIDI notes and I recorded them on each channel separately, and then I exported all of these down to be a sample, and I saved them into a folder in my audio library. This is my library drive on my computer, and I saved them into a file. Now, previously I downloaded some samples off the net for a Roland U220. When I was working with a guy I used to write songs with, he had a Roland U220, and all of the drum patterns we have from that era rely on the U220 drum sounds. Most of them are replaceable, but a few of them aren't, and so I downloaded them and created a U220 drum machine using Groove Agent 1. So what I did was I saved those samples into a TR505 samples folder, and then in Media Bay I allowed Cubase to index that folder. The net result is that we have these samples here in Media Bay. I'll just pull that over there, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open an instance of Groove Agent 1. Now, the only other thing you need in order for this to work is to have a map. Now, I downloaded the Roland TR505 manual off the web. There are many websites where you can go and download. Some manufacturers still make their own manuals available, but the TR505 is so prehistoric that it's no longer on the Roland website. And you look for where your samples sit on the MIDI notes. And so here we can see that I've actually got the kick drum on C2, but that wants to go on B1. So it's a simple question of dragging it, and now I've got that. I drag it there, go back here, snare drum is on D2, and now with the Media Bay open I can just go through and drag the other files. It's as simple as that. Rimshot goes to C#2. You double click, or right click rather, to rename it. Now you'll notice there's a problem with that. My sample had some lead-in time, so I've got a bit of a gap and then a tail. So what you can do is you can edit your samples, you can open the audio editor in Cubase, or you can rely on the fact that Cubase will snap to the 0 crossing points in your recording, and you simply drag that up and let it go and let it find its own point, and there we go. Now you can hear a little bit of hiss. the noise, the analog noise. It's part of the charm. As you can see, I've preset that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the rest of the samples out of Media Bay onto the pads. You talk amongst yourselves. I've just noticed, of course, that I'd put the kick drum on completely the wrong pad. I should have copied it from there to there and not to B-1. So all you do to transfer it is click and drag. And that's how it works. Okay, so I've added in all of the sounds except the timbale, which goes on the F. And I just wanted to again go through the process of editing. As you can see, you take hold of the left editor, you drag it across, and you can actually drop it on the sound itself as close to the beginning as you like. And I didn't do it then, but sometimes it will jump backwards to find that 0 crossing point. And then all you have to do is hit your pad, and as long as the sound is immediate with the click of your mouse, then you've got it successfully done. Okay, so I now have mapped all of my TR505 samples across the correct pads to the right MIDI notes in Groove Agent 1. Before I save it, there's one more thing I want to do, and that's to come back down here and have a look at these two. The open and closed hi-hats. They shouldn't sound together. So if we go into the voice parameters, we can assign that one to a mute group, and we'll assign it to mute group 1. We'll assign that to mute group 1. What that does is if you assign notes to a mute group, only one of them can sound at any time. So I could create a MIDI file where these sounds were all playing at once. So you might have a fill where you've got the snare and the tom going all at once. What you don't want is to have the open and closed hi-hats sounding at the same time. Unless your drummer's got two hi-hats, which is a little over the top, you can't have it. But now, because they're assigned to the same mute group, that won't happen. So what we do now is we go into here, save that as a preset, and as you can see I've got the U220 standard drums. We're just going to put this TR505 and OK. And now, as a preset saved in Groove Agent 1, you've got your historic beatbox ready to use on whatever song you want to use it on. You can get into a lot more with Groove Agent 1 with layering samples so that you get different dynamics, but in this case we were dealing with a drum machine that had one sound and just played it louder if you wanted an accent. Nice and simple, really retro, and very nostalgic. And that's it from me. If you haven't downloaded the Total Beginner's Guide to Home Recording from the website, jump over to www.finishyoursong.com and you can download it for free. So until next time, you take care of yourselves.